Welcome to Most Awesome Facts. Today, AskReddit asks, what's the strangest punishment your parents ever gave you? My mom was pretty old school, so she wasn't against spanking us, which was my usual punishment. Strangest was when I made fun of my sister for wetting the bed, calling her a baby and stuff. My mom wasn't happy because I was making her cry and setting her back, so as a punishment, she made me wear a pull-up whenever my sister had to. That's a lot to unpack there. Me to smell dog breath. Because if we have to deal with the filth from your mouth, then you have to deal with the filth from its mouth. I got this on numerous occasions. It sounds silly at first, but it was anything but at the time. I begged them to give me anything but that. If I curse, my mom would make me go into the bathroom and say every curse I knew while looking in the mirror so I could see how ugly I made myself look while cursing. Well, I learned that if I wanted to curse with impunity, all I had to do was say ass and get sent to the bathroom where I could say any curse I could think of, punishment free for as long as I wanted. LOL. They accidentally taught you venting/coping skills. Neat! My parents would wash my mouth out with soap. The liquid stuff was the worst because it would get down your throat and make you want to puke. When I was 10, my mom would take my NES games for a week. When I was 13, my mom would take my SNES games for a week. When I was 16, Mom would take my blank floppy disks for a week. I didn't explain the mistake to her until I moved out. All I can imagine is just a drawer full of floppy disks with names on them, which are all blank in an old cardboard box of numbered floppy disks with stuff on them. You can't copy your friend's DOS games or save your computer lab homework until you learn how to behave, mister. I would get grounded to the front porch because when I was grounded in my room, I would entertain myself with literally anything, even lint from the carpet. So my dad finally had enough and made me sit on the front porch, and I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone except to say that I'm grounded and can't talk. Random stranger walks by. Hi, I'm grounded. My dad said I can't talk to you. This reminds me of Doofenshmirtz's past, where he was made to be a garden gnome by his parents and couldn't talk to anyone. I was deathly afraid of my basement, and the threat for not adhering to lights out time was being forced to sleep in the basement for the night. Anyway, I forgot what I was doing, but I was up to no good one night, probably reading comic books with a flashlight or something. I got sent to sleep in the basement and was pretty much up all night being super scared. It was threatened a lot, but I think it only actually happened once. I was a smartass kid. My aunt tried once to threaten me that the boogeyman will take me to the basement if I don't behave and eat me. Her? Can you hear him roar? My 4-year-old smart mouth, Auntie, you know better. That's the boiler. She said I was super condescending and that made her quit. Then one day she broke a wooden spoon whipping my butt and I still tense up hearing the drawer clang open to this day. My parents routinely took away my library card when I did something worth punishing, so I memorized it. When they caught on, they refused to go to the library with me for the duration of my punishment, so I started volunteering at the library once a week so they had to take me. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Steady on, Hermione. Dad made me splice together his old 8mm vacation films into a Vine-style highlight reel after I hurt his feelings by refusing to see Chef with him. Why did you refuse to watch it with him, and have you watched it with him since then? What do you think about his vacation films? Not really a strange punishment, but it turned out strangely, I think. When I was probably 5 or 6, something happened, literally can't remember what I did to deserve the punishment, that caused my parents to send me to my room with no lights allowed on and the door closed. I'd never been able to sleep with the door closed and at least a light on in the hall or something till then. This time, I just went to sleep after a while in there with no lights, and that was the last time I needed lights on or the door open when I went to bed. Worked out well from my point of view, IMO. Worked out well from their point of view, too. If I misbehaved in a car, my mom would lower the window and say that a bird would fly in it if I continued to misbehave. Were you afraid of birds, or just the thought of getting a bird smacked into your face at terminal velocity? For some reason, my parents allowed my brother and I to have a very basic bow and arrow, which we were allowed to shoot at a cardboard box in the backyard. I, being very young and very dumb, crawled into the box while my brother was firing. Parents were not pleased, and to demonstrate how dangerous what I had done was, they made me lay on the couch for the whole day and pretend I was in a hospital bed. I mean, if you were an active kid and weren't allowed to move or play with toys, boring TV, and bland food, I could see that as a punishment. Still weird, though. LOL, that's actually pretty hilarious. I hated timeout as a kid, so that was probably actually a pretty effective punishment. I have a bow-related story, too. When I was maybe in the 3rd grade, I had a bow that I shot at random stuff. One game was standing under our enormous oak tree and shooting the arrows straight up through the canopy. It would vanish and then reappear blasting back through them directly at me. It was sort of a chance game. One time, the arrow shot straight down and sunk into the ground right behind my backing away little brother's foot. The image of what almost happened knocked some sense into me. Me and my sister were fighting after I tried to steal some of her chili fries, and she stabbed me with a fork. Dad took us out back and tied us up face to face with a rope. Told us when you figure out how to work together, you will be able to get out. Did you work together and get out? After we stopped spitting on each other, yes. I had to fill cut open tennis balls with pennies. I'm still not sure what that was about. I was innocent, by the way. I kind of want to do that just to know what it's like. Seems weird, but I don't know. I can't help but think this has something to do with some weird illegal activity, because I have no other explanation for this. It's called a pitcher's ball. You fill a tennis ball with coins and tape it with duct tape. Makes the ball heavy, so helps with training, catching, and throwing for baseball. I was not allowed to read unless it was specifically for school. My teacher stopped letting me bring books to class because I would finish my work early and read. I got the answers right and I wasn't causing trouble, so I still don't get why. My dad took away my Harry Potter books because I was reading too much. I got a bad grade on the math test in elementary school. As my dad dropped me off for the day, I quickly told him he needed to sign something. He was so furious that even though I was already late for school, he drove the 2 miles back home, spanked me, and made me walk to school. I was so late. I understand that parents want their kids to do well in school, but getting angry like that over a bad grade is so dumb and rather counterproductive. My parents would yell at me if I wasn't on the honor roll and say things that just made me feel like crap. Instead of going to them for help when I was struggling in school, I talked as little about school with them as possible. When I was 16, I got caught shoplifting a CD. Thankfully, they didn't press charges, but my father confiscated every possession I owned short of the essentials: mattress, blanket, clothes, and, ironically, a $200 police scanner still in the box he didn't know about. And that's how I got into listening to police scanners. Edit, scanner was shoplifted as well, and I never shoplifted again after getting caught. When I was little, my mom's go-to punishment was to make me kneel on uncooked rice for about 15 minutes. Had to keep a straight back or else the time was increased. She did this because that was how her mom punished her and her brother. She eventually stopped using the punishment after she set some clear boundaries with my very controlling grandmother. She never felt right making me do it. My little sister never had to go through it. I kind of resented that for a while, but eventually was grateful she didn't experience it. That is a double glow up. Your mom was like, my mom is nutso, I'm not following your examples, and realized even the stuff that worked in the past was bullcrap. You realized that going through it was cruel, and your sister was very lucky to avoid it, and it was good. I'm so happy. I was being a jerk as a teen. I think I was 15, and tormenting my little brother by grossing him out. Stuff like burping in his face when he didn't expect it, making him smell my feet, and he really hated it. It made me laugh, and I called him a wussy for being grossed out so easily. After he came to her crying one day about it, my mom warned me that if I didn't stop, I'd be very sorry. I didn't listen. Worst mistake of my childhood. My mom ran a small doggy daycare / pet grooming business. The next time I did this to my brother, she put me to work cleaning filthy dog kennels without gloves and without a scooper. Worse, she introduced me to what dog anal glands are, which groomers often have to express. Around 3 times a day that week, I had to express dog anal glands. I was not allowed to wear gloves. I puked every single time. She planned on the punishment lasting all week, but my bro asked her to let me off the hook after he saw how defeated and broken I looked by Wednesday. Why do so many of these comments involve animal fluids? There should only be so many. The buck rag. Still have nightmares. For those who don't know, a buck rag is a rag that's been rubbed all over sweaty, oil, pee-soaked billy goat in rut and is often used for goat breeding purposes. In our Alabama town, it became popular for parents to use these to punish children. Goat farmers would even sell the rags for this purpose. Basically, the teenager would be taken outside and the parents would remove the buck rag from the jar, drape it over the kid's face, and tie a knot in the back. Plenty of room to breathe, no room to avoid the smell. I never saw why everyone feared it so much until my parents gave it to me one night for sneaking around with my boyfriend at night. I puked. A lot. This is like redneck waterboarding. Where was this? I know Alabama, but where? I never heard of this in my life. Bless your heart. I really mean it. Not like the other way. Yikes, that's horrible. I have such a sensitive sense of smell, I don't even know what I would do in that situation. That is some messed up crap. I would rather be hit with a switch than have a buck rag. My parents said I was playing too much Skyrim when it came out, so they took the router with them to work every day. Good thing you don't need internet to play an offline single-player game. Lamau, my parents definitely did not understand technology, and they do stuff like this, but even less effective. Like they turned the screen off and assumed that meant that the entire machine was shut down and everything was lost. Or like everything was plugged into a power strip, so they take the power strip away, but all the plugs and outlets were still there, so... One time my mom kept holding the off button down, but I was sitting there on the screen with the mouse and keyboard and a window would pop up asking whether I would actually want to turn the computer off, so I just kept clicking no. leave the computer on. She could not for the life of her understand why it didn't work. My mom would take the DSL cable from the wall to the router to work with her. She didn't realize we could hook up the cable from the actual telephone into the router and regain a connection. My father would unplug a certain plug from the router, lock the closet it was in with padlock and chains, and take the keys to work with him every day. Funnily enough, the chains weren't tight enough and the router wouldn't be deep enough in the closet at all, so pulling the closet with force gave just enough room for my hand to sneak in and pull the cable back in. I pissed off my mom one day, and as a punishment, she stormed into my room, took the power cord from my computer. I didn't play it on the computer in like a year. She was so pissed and ripped the cord so hard it moved my desk away from the wall, and I didn't even care. Not a very well thought out punishment. They withheld dinner and I was only allowed to have bread and butter. My mom was a rather terrible cook, so I was super okay with this. My stepsister was denied dinner once because my dad decided the whole family was going to share this giant nacho plate, and that was our only option for dinner. My stepsister and I were close, so later I made and smuggled her a PB&J sandwich. Later that evening, everyone, but her stepsister, was violently ill from the nachos. I was always more the artist type, didn't care much for throwing the football around or working on cars. I wasn't belittled or anything, my family let me do me. But my stepfather was an evil genius, and when I did something that was considered a minor infraction, he'd give me the option of either going to bed early or staying up till my normal bedtime but having to watch sports with him in the living room. And I couldn't just zone out or read. He'd sit there and make chit-chat about the game or trying to explain the rules or the player stats or something else I couldn't have cared less about. I'm 34 and we still laugh about that sometimes. That stuff was brutal. To be fair, your stepdad probably wanted to spend time with you doing something he liked as well. If my son ends up not liking sports, not gonna lie, it'll be really sad for me. Yeah, I will accept whatever he likes, but right now I do have hope of watching sports with him and getting happy/excited when something happens. No punishment, and that in itself was punishment. I totally bombed during my first semester in college. I took 16 credits and ended up with a .77 GPA for the semester. Yes, that less than a 1.0. My parents were disappointed, but told me that they knew I could do better, and they knew I would do better. They forgave me and basically said, okay, so you screwed up, now make it better and make us proud. The fact that they were not upset really weighed on me. It really put a ton of guilt and shame upon me, even though they didn't put those things on me. I did it to myself. It really motivated me to not mess around any longer in college. I buckled down and really succeeded. Like most teenagers, I was scared of my old man. If I was misbehaving, all my mom had to say was wait till your father gets home and the fear of God would be just put into me. I thought he was going to yell, scream, or curse at me. He didn't do any of that when I came home and just looked at me and said, you basically blew an almost free ride to college. I'm disappointed in you, man. That really hurt. One time when I was super young, I didn't eat all the food on my plate and my dad told me I was going to eat it or wear it. I was full and said I'm not going to eat it. Then my dad slammed my head into the plate of food. Definitely was a strange punishment. Started off odd, got violent fast. I thought he was going to make you put the food in your pockets or something. Damn. A little brother. I still don't know what I did wrong. Such a disappointment that they wanted a fresh start. They were mad I was playing too many video games. Civilization, Master of Orion 2, World of Warcraft 1, Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, Tactics, Ogre Battle, Urquan Masters. Okay, so I played a lot of games. So they made me go out with friends more. Now keep in mind, I did have friends and was social and would go out once or twice a week with them, but any video games were bad. So my parents forced me to hang out in my buddy's garage where they drank and smoked up at 13 years old. A couple of them ended up getting into some serious drugs by around 16, and my parents were still forcing me to go hang out with them because their parents were good people that will sort him out. Well, they never did. I always thought it was funny that they considered cerebral strategy games more damaging to my development than hanging out with 13 to 16-year-old drunks. And that's the end of the Ask Reddit, what's the strangest punishment your parents ever gave you? Let us know down in the comments what's the strangest punishment your parents ever gave you. Also, don't forget to hit that like button, get subscribed, and share this video with your friends so that they can find out about the strangest punishments that people ever received. Thank you for watching Most Amazing Facts, and we'll see you in the next one.